are pioneers and trailblazers. We fight for freedom. We transform our dreams into the truth. Our struggles will become a nation.
October 2nd, 1835 through April 21st, 1836. The time period of one of the most significant events in the U.S. history, the Texas Revolution.
The Texas Revolution was one of the most unique revolutions in history. If it wasn't for this, Texas wouldn't be annexed as the 28th state of the United States. It is similar to, or can be compared to, the 13 colonies trying to get their independence from Great Britain. It was basically the Mexican dictator trying to rule over the Texas colony, which angered the Texans.
The Mexican government needed people to fill up the empty territory. Thus, land was open to U.S. immigrants to settle in. As the American population began to outweigh the Mexicans in Texas, the Mexican government enacts the law of April 6th in the year 1830. This law prohibits the immigration of any more Americans into Texas, places taxes on goods coming into Texas from the U.S., prohibits slaves from entering Texas, and deploys Mexican troops for a permanent duty station.
Now this is very intimidating to the Mexican government since they're not really following their culture, they're following their rules. They even brought slavery into the colony, which kind of angered the Mexican government, and really they had their own society of some sort, and the Mexican government obviously wanted to end this madness, and by doing that they would first prohibit slavery, which was a problem since most of the settlers were from the south, and obviously this would create a huge outrage.
In June 1832, Anglo-American settlers rebel against President Bustamante and his government's violations of the Mexican Constitution of 1824. They adopt the Turtle Bayou Resolutions, pledging support for the Constitution, and urge all Texans to support the Patriots fighting under Santa Anna to defeat military despotism, which was a huge mistake for the Texans.
I think that with the Turtle Bayou Resolution, it was just a ticking clock for the Texans. As once this resolution was passed, Santa Anna took over as a dictatorship. And as that dictatorship pulled over, all the Texans would soon see their demise in the Texas Revolution.
As Santa Anna took power, he got rid of the Mexican Constitution and made Mexico his country as he became dictator of Mexico. Therefore, in September 8, 1835, Stephen F. Austin, the father of Texas, declares war on the Mexican in order to protect the Texans' rights. October 2, 1835, the first shots were fired. The Texans were ordered by Mexican Lieutenant Francisco de Castaneda to return the cannon they received in Gonzales. However, the Texans refused and fighting broke out. This was known as the Battle of Gonzales. After their first victory of the war, the Texas settlers attacked Mexican soldiers at Presidio La Bahia near Goliad. The Texans win the Battle of Goliad and force the soldiers to leave, allowing them to take thousands of dollars worth of food and supplies. Another major conflict occurred in October 28, 1835, the Battle of Concepcion. The Battle of Goliad was one of the significant events of the Texas Revolution. Now, in this battle, the Texans were victorious, and what they got out of this victory were supplies for the rebellion. But the Battle of Concepcion was the bigger picture. In this battle, the Mexicans outnumbered the Texans 5-1, but the Texans were still victorious. This proved that the Texans had a superior military than that of the Mexicans. The Texans won consecutively up to the siege of Bexar, where they drove off the Mexican forces out of Texas. Santa Anna would not give up Texas, thus starting the Goliad campaign. The first battle of the Goliad was at San Patricio. Mexican Brigadier General Jose de Urrea fought against the Texan commander Frank W. Johnson. The Texan forces were clearly outmatched, as the Mexican forces had 500 soldiers going up against just 70 men. The Texans lost that battle and the other consecutive battles of the Goliad campaign. The Battle of the Alamo, although not part of the campaign, was another significant loss. In this battle, the Texan defenders, led by Colonel James Bowie, Colonel Davy Crockett, and Lieutenant Colonel William B. Travis, was to defend against an army of 1,800 Mexican soldiers, led by General Santa Anna himself.
Now, these defenders, they were truly courageous. They were outnumbered about 9-1, and in the face of death, men like James Bowie, Davy Crockett, and Willie B. Travis had decided they would stay and defend the Alamo from this invasion that would surely kill them. Now, the Battle of the Alamo did end up being one of the most bloodiest battles, and it was known to other Texans as, well, let's just say it created one of the most memorable phrases in the war.
The Texans had only about 200 men and fought for more than 10 days. Santa Anna would strike even when the Texans were at night, making it easy for his men to defeat the exterior forces and to move toward the mission. The Texans fought valiantly. However, their efforts weren't enough. In the end, the defenders were crushed and burned down with the mission. The losses didn't stop there. As the Mexican army continued pursuing Goliad, they win throughout the battles they face. Finally, at the Battle of Colito, they have completed their bloodthirsty campaign. General Jose de Urrea goes up against 300 Texans, led by Colonel James Walker Fannin, with his army of over 1,000 men. Fannin's men get obliterated. The survivors of the battle were ordered to be killed. This massacre was known as the Goliad Massacre. After the tragedies of the war, the Texans prepare for the final battle that will determine the outcome of the revolution, the Battle of San Jacinto. As the two armies meet up at what is known as a modern-day La Porte, Santa Anna's men suffer heavy casualties from the angry Texans. The Texans were victorious. However, Santa Anna managed to escape the scene of the battle, but was found the next day in a common soldier uniform. He was held as a POW, prisoner of war, and forced to surrender in front of Houston. Later, he signs the Treaties of Velasco, ending the revolution and bringing independence to the Texas colony.